I would like to welcome you to my talk, which topic is Micronaut. My name is Vladimír Oraný. I work for a company called Agrapools as a test facilitator, which is kind of job I've invented. I'm just helping my coworkers to write tests most of the time, but I'm doing some R&D as well. You can find me on Twitter as Musketeer. This is the link to the new framework, the Micronaut. Yeah, it's our Twitter. So, probably as a first thing you are asking here is, what is the agenda? What are we going to learn here? So, yeah, every time just people tell me, okay, you don't put agenda in there, so we don't know what's happening. So, most of the time we're just showing some demo, some live coding, so just pray for the demo gods. So, yeah, very, very simple agenda. And so now, what's Micronaut? Micronaut is the new JVM framework. This is stolen from the Micronaut website. So it's JVM based, full stack, and built for modern. And the core thing is it's built for microservices. So it's supposed to be as small as possible. I suppose the headline of this talk. And this is the team behind the Micronaut framework, which is very important for me. And this is also how I find out about Micronaut. So this team is not from Micronaut website. This is from Grails website. So anyone is familiar with with Grails? So it's created by the same people, but the focus is to reduce the bottlenecks of Spring Boot, especially memory hungriness, especially the startup times. And you can see I'm not there, so I'm just a big fan of Micronaut. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. But I'm not in the core team. I don't know much about the feature. Yeah. We have the discussion before, but the point is the projector is way too old. I was trying really hard just to make the console kind of readable. So yeah, this is the thing with the hardware over there. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. So I'm not there, so I can answer some questions. If there are other questions I can't answer, we can ask any of the guys from the team later on. So this is the main motto of Micronaut. The motto is natively cloud native. What does it mean? Well, it means that from the very first time they just start to develop the framework, they just think it will be the framework for microservices, and it will be framework to run in the cloud. So you can see some tools which plays very well out of the box with Micronaut. If you don't know the logo, some of them I don't. You can help me even. This is console. Zipkin was discussed in a couple of sessions yesterday. AWS, Netflix, Eureka, Google Cloud Services. I can't remember this one. Who knows it? No one? Okay, never mind. But anyway, so as I said, it's built for microservices. So this is also taken from the official documentation, and especially the official example. You definitely know PetStore. PetStore is the typical example for Spring projects. So you can see this is kind of PetStore in the microservice environment. You know, there's some, and this is what you can actually do. You can use Groovy, but you can use, of course, Java. You can use even Kotlin to develop Micronaut services. And there are out-of-box support for, I don't know, Postgres, even the reactive Postgres, Redis, Neo4j, even with the reactive driver. AWS services, Lambda, and whatever you want, Mongo, of course. Anyone wants to work with Mongo. And, everything is, using the service discovery. And you can try it. You can go to the website and try it. And now demo time. I hope you like live coding, less than speaking. So speaking of Grails, okay, just let me scroll a bit. down. As I said, it was created by the Grails team, and Grails was kind of a JVM alternative to Rails. And it was trying to sell us the R&D principle, you know, rapid application development. I would just call it developer experience, just being kind to developers. So, how to get Micronaut? If you're anyone familiar with the SDK man, is anyone using SDK man here? Or no? Okay. Oh, perfect. So SDK man is a packaging manager for JVM. You can just very simply install it and install Micronaut. So you can see just install SDK man. You can do it in the bash actually. It's already installed just for showcase. And you can see the version I'm using. It's RC2 at the moment. So now when I have a Micronaut installed, it will take much longer if you want to download it, but I don't want to try to download anything on the speaker's Wi-Fi. And is it readable a bit? I was trying hard to do so. So what you can do, you can just call Micronaut an interactive shell, and it gives you some hints what to do. Okay, so what can you do actually? You can create application, you can create CLI application, which is based on Pico CLI. You can create federation of services, function or profile, which is a Micronaut profile, which is basically similar as that application, CLI or whatever. So let's create an application, and you can add some features. So this is actually the whole list of out-of-box supported things out of moment. You can see there's support for Cassandra. You can use service discovery using console, or if you're using Eureka as well. You can use the configuration from console. For persistence, you can use just Hibernate or Hibernate with GOM. What else? There's support for Kafka and Kafka streams natively. For management, and you can use Micrometer or management, and other things like Hysterix, Ribbon. There's a out-of-box Redis, and also security with JWT, which is easy to set up. But let's start easy. So let's say I haven't used JUnit for 5 to 10 years. I don't know. It's a really long time. I can't guess. So I'm just using Spock everywhere. Another cool thing I want to show you is Grail native image, which we get there in a couple of minutes. Of course, so let's say we are creating some shop to sell boots. Okay, sorry. Now. Okay. So just before we switch to Intellij, and I hope it will be a bit more readable than this, we can also use the command line to create some basic artifacts. Again, you can use it directly from the shell, but just to show you the possibilities. So, for example, create bean. How does the regular Micronaut bean looks like? Say product service. Let's create controller for beginning. Okay, so let's switch to Intellij now. Also, I forgot to say about things about questions. So, if you are doing the live demo, there are some things which happens quite a longer time than you want to do in a demo. So there's an exact perfect time for ask questions. So we just ask questions whenever you want, or whenever something's happening which doesn't need any comment, and I can answer it right away. Any questions now? Okay, let's start with Intellij. Okay, so I don't know who's using anything else than Intellij here. Okay, you don't count. He's the last living guy using NetBeans because he created. But anyway, so Eclipse or whatever. What are you using? What? NetBeans again. Okay, you can set up a clan. Cool. Yeah. So there's actually no special support for Intellij because you don't need it. So how does actually Micronaut works? Micronaut works, and the trick is it's doing everything in the compile time. Whatever it can do, it does in the compile time, and it needs annotation processors. For Java, for Groovy, it does use something different. So it's the only caveat you need to remember is to enable annotation processing when you use Micronaut project in Intellij. So we can take a look. We have our product service. Just take this away. That's readable. Okay, so what you can see. So it's using just the classical CDI singleton. It's not introducing any new annotations. So let's have a product service, and what can it do? Just list of products. Okay. The product does not exist yet. So let's create a class, which is pretty simple. Just it's live coding, nothing fancy. Okay, I'm not sure if it's Intellij thing or Micronaut actually this stuff. But in Java you need to specify, you need to remember the name of the parameter. And this is actually not for Micronaut, this is for JSON, because Micronaut is using JSON for parsing JSON, including parsing it in interactive way. So I just need this for JSON. Okay, so in Java you need to do all this stupid stuff, and it's using Lombok. I don't even if I don't need it, but it's a good habit. Whatever. Cool. So it's it's really really simple. It's nothing fancy. So what to do? Oh, what happened to the product service? So I just Okay. So I just stole it. Okay, we may want to try to take a look on the magic happening. And if we go to compiled classes. Okay, I need to run for something. So let's wait. So this is the constructor, the service, and we can take a look on the control as well. And you can see it looks pretty similar to Spring MVC, or if you alter the name of the annotation, it's pretty same like XRS. Or what's the name? I haven't used Java EE for a long, how it's called now, for a long time. Okay, so let's try to do something more fancy. At least return the service constructor. Okay, just return whatever the product service returns. Cool. So this is it. And how to test it? Well, first, let's just take a look on the test. Anyone ever used Spock in here for testing? Okay, cool. Couple of you. So Spock is I think one of the greatest framework for Groovy, and it's very good for testing. So you don't have to, write the assertions yourself. You just have this kind of specification language. Just say given, expert, or when then, or whatever you want. Okay, so let's run it. I guess this would be a bit smaller. Okay. It's green, it's small, but it's green. So I'm not sure if you so just try to discuss this a bit. So what's the preferred way of testing in Micronaut? In Micronaut, as they rely on being very fast to start up, and you just basically always, you can just, do integration tests right ahead. You start the embedded server, and this is one of the beans you can just get by default. This is Rx HTTP client. So you can see it's reactive. So first you have to go to blocking and get whatever is product returning. So what if we want to see the results itself? Say get argument of list and the product. So this is the list, is the class, product is the type. Okay. Here we go. Just to show it somehow all in the screen. It's not nice, but it's visible. So I'm not sure how the semicolon gets there. We don't use semicolon in Groovy. And now we can just grab whatever it returns. Response, body, it should be there. It should have a size of 2. And whatever. First name should be Hutzler. Okay, yep. So we can also use the client to just get the to unmarshal the JSON. So now this could be difficult, but now once I run the test, we can take a look what has been compiled in here. And this is it. I'm not sure. I can't probably just zoom this. So you can see this is the, let's say, product controller. And there is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different classes for the controller. And so the point, it just tries to help to reduce also the drawbacks of Java language. So for example, type erasure. So for type parameters, it's lost during the compile time. So it's held somewhere, I believe. I'm not sure if there's anything interesting in there, but it basically tries to avoid reflection as much as possible, which has certain benefits. We show it later on, for example, with Grails VM. Cool. So this is the biggest secret of Micronaut. Now, just while we've been here, We can also use something different. So, this is not that. Because if you have microservice, you either use messaging or use REST calls. So it's kind of core business of being able to have some nice clients for HTTP services. You can actually just try it in here and create client product. Just I don't have to think much about the imports and other stuff. Okay, product client. This is the default template, but what we can do, if you say just client product, so how does it know which URL to hit? So you can do it in the configuration. The configuration is very the same as, for example, Spring does, which means all the chain, including the YAML configurations, property configuration, system properties, environment variables. It's even kind of sideways compatible with Spring, so you can use Spring configuration JSON on an environment variable. So what we did, we just have this list of product, and we just want to go to /product at the moment. Okay, and now we can just do it's a bit silly doing this on the one microservice, but this is what you probably do all the time with different microservices. Client. Just index. Okay. I'm going to just get the products directly. Okay, so but it's 2018, and it seems pretty silly to just do HTTP calls synchronously. So of course you can use anything reactive. So what I can do, I can just go here and say, okay, it's flow above product, for example. And okay. And do it in the interactive way. And it still works. And you may ask where the product actually client is, because it's in an interface. So it's pretty well known concept now, for example, from Spring Data. You can just have these repositories or data services. But of course, there's one big difference in Micronaut is that this is also built during the compile time. So there is no bytecode manipulation, there is no generating classing during the startup of the applications. So I believe if I go to the code, to the generated, there should be some implementation in here generated, but I don't know it exactly. How does it look? So, okay, so this is the base. So let's try to run it actually. Okay. This is all the computer, but still the startup is about 1 second. Yeah, it's hello up, whatever. So do you think, can we do it better? Do you want to see a faster startup here? I know. Okay, so what I've actually used, I need to use Grail VM for this. And thanks to all the compile time magic, you know, like minimum reflection, you can actually use Grail VM. And when I try to summarize how I understand Grail to your yesterday, it's basically what just JIT does during the runtime. It just does it, you know, in the compile time when you compile application. And if you can remember and use the Grail feature when I created the application, so I already have this built native image script. So what it does at first, it creates the distribution, which means the shadow jar, the fetch jar. And then it runs the Grail native image compiler. I don't know what it's called. So what does Micronaut for you? First time it just uses the compile time magics to avoid reflection, which is big enemy for Grail and, you know, pre-compilation and pre-optimization. And the other thing is that it generates this reflect JSON, which also helps Grail to find the reflection if it's needed and where it's needed. And this is exactly the time when you can ask questions, because Grail is not that fast enough. Alright, so any questions so far? Yeah, sure. You can pick Maven if you really want. You can, of course, use Maven. You can just pick it when you generate it. You can just pick the build system. So you either go for Maven or you go for Gradle. Yes, you can. I believe. Okay, the other question?
I have another question.
Sure.
We saw an API to build a REST service.
Yes.
Which used some annotations. They look similar to Spring annotations, but they were from Micronaut.
Yes.
Are there any intentions to support either Spring annotations or other standard annotations like Java EE or microprofile?
I don't know. I think they just try to keep the compatibility. I think they kept the names, but for some reason they just probably need to use the different annotations. Maybe for the Groovy implementations, you need to add a couple of more declarations to the annotations. For Groovy, it's using the AST transformation, which is basically you annotate something, the piece of code. It could be class, it could be method, and you exact it to the annotations. You have to declare the transformation. So it says, okay, let's say it will be the client one. It say, okay, for this client annotations, use this client transformation, which will generate some code on the compile time. So I think that's the one reason. And other reason, they are adding some. Let's take a look if there's some good example. Maybe the client. So they're using the meta annotations a lot. If you can take a look. So, you know, it's if you annotate with client, it also mean it's a singleton. It also mean it has introduction, which is the AOP thing, with to creating the implementation and other stuff. So, and also this alias for stuff. And they actually they have some unified way how to handle metadata, the annotation metadata, so you don't have to work directly with this. And for example, you just say, give me the value. And you don't need to take a look to both annotation if they have an alias. So they have some internals which handles the annotation in some other way. So I think that's the main reason they are just using this kind of custom annotations instead of the default ones. I hope it wasn't too deep or. But anyway, okay. So what are your approximation? What will be the startup time? 0. This is what Yarda wants. It's not 0. 50 minutes? 50 milliseconds. Okay. Okay. Oh no, this is slow. 27 is better. It was some glitch. What is the average? Yeah, so you can have, I'm not sure where's the last time you've seen Java application starting in 28 milliseconds. And what is it good for? So what do you think? Okay, I've compiled it on my machine. And that's all. So, okay. What to do? Okay. I have to prepare it. It would take another couple of minutes to do it. Okay, fingers crossed. Okay, Docker run. So you can, since yesterday or day before yesterday, you can also use the Grail image. Okay, it's already running in here, so does this work? No. Okay, that was the that was the sample one. It just returns okay. If you don't believe me, it just returns okay. And if I try different port, it's not returning okay. It's not tweak on my machine. So it's actually running the compiled Grail command with a web server in a Docker, and it starts in 20 milliseconds, which could be handy. Okay. And if you are curious, there's the you can later on get the okay, how does it run? Okay. It seems to me it's stopping longer than it's starting. Okay, so let's not cheat, just run it with the Java version. And the Oracle version. Okay, so I'm not using the shortcuts, so you can see what's happening actually. I just run it again using the Oracle Java. Less than 1 millisecond. Probably the cold temperature in here is better for the computer. So do you know Visual VM? Yeah, it's the way how to just monitor. Okay, products. So you can see the application at this level just taking about 70 megs of memory with the 50 megs heap size, which is also not bad with having all the DI in. Okay, so how many beans does your application have? The microservice, not full application. 100? Is it decent microservice or way too fat microservice is 100? Okay, so I have a little helper in here. Not this one. So I've just created the small tool to generate the beans. Okay. Time left. Is it 10 minutes? No. No. I hope it's seconds. No. Okay. So let's do it the other way. Just take the local one. Okay, this can also happen with a live demo, that nothing works. Okay, does it work? Yes. So we can skip the download, hopefully. Oh, no. Okay. And the rest should work. Okay, so generating 100 beans and 100 controllers, so the beans are initialized. We can try to run it again. That's a bit of a downside, that the compilation may take a bit longer. If you are doing everything on the compile time, it just takes a bit. Okay, so it's a 100 beans, it's still 1.5 seconds. I think it's still pretty decent. And loaded 354 Micronaut beans. What about the performance now? Okay, it's 18 megs for 350 beans. And we can just test it works. So in the tool also generates the HTTP, the spec, to give it some load, which is also a Spring spec. Spock spec. And it's using this tool called Chrome just to get the URL and expect some response. And to just give it some load. Okay, Okay, it grows a bit, it goes down, the thread grows a bit again, but if I run it a couple of times, so what is pretty interesting is the thread pool. Once it's just saturated, when it's filled with the thread pool and it's reactive, so it doesn't add like another 100 of threads. So I also had the Spring Boot example, but it also downloads from the internet, so I think it's not going to work here. But you can take a look to the slides. I try to put all the commands in there. So what we can actually do, one more thing, is to not really, I don't want to see your messages. It's my wife, sorry. Not this one. No, not here. So let's say you are some anime company, you want to scrape the products in Lambda. So who's using AWS Lambda for some processing in here? Okay, just a couple of hands. It could be handy for, not sure we are using it for API gateway, I'm not sure if it's the best fit, but for kind of database triggers in DynamoDB table, it's a good thing. And for me, why I just started to try it Micronaut for the function is that it's pretty difficult to test, because how the handler in Micronaut in AWS Lambda looks, it has to be just a class with the noargs constructor, with a one method, which handling stuff. But Micronaut is adding this kind of nice dependency injection. Oh, what's happening in here? Okay, so we just need some refresh, I guess. Oh, we're here. No. Okay. Come on. Going to be not very nice, but what you can see, it's just a implementation of some function interface. In this case, it's supplier. Just move it up a bit. So in this case, it's supplier, and this is the function. Okay, this just kind of. Let's try it again. Cradle, finish. Yes, of course. Maybe this time. No. I need to go to the JetBrains guys out there just to complain. Sorry? Use Git. Vim? Nah. I can do MC edit, I'm the old guy for that. I can do MC edit, sorry. It's even a little less with. And again, the advantage is that you can also just spin up the whole container, whole application server, embedded server, and locally or in test, it publishes your cloud function as a REST endpoint. So you can call it locally, debug it locally, which is pretty difficult when you try to do it in a cloud, and you always have to deploy, test. But anyway, okay, this is silly. But what it also does out of the box, it just gives you the configuration to deploy. So I can try to start deploying. What is this? Okay, it's some weird. Oh. Sorry. Some stupid wrong window. So if you have everything set up, your AWS account and whatever, no, it's kind of, never mind. It's a conspiracy from NetBeans guys, just not to show it in Intellij, I believe. So anyway, you can deploy it, you can call it, you can deploy it, you can call it. What I wanted to show you that for also we have this HTTP client again, but what you can do, you can just refactor it, just to have a common interface. Just create the client, extending the interface, and yeah, not using the client, but the API. And what you actually can do, you can create your mocks for your test easily, just for that interface. You can see similar to Spring Boot, you can have this requires annotation, where can you define everything like environment, presence or absence of system property, presence or absence of beans, on the whatever. And you also have this similar annotation primary, just to override it for your tests. And instead of just doing some HTTP in your test, you can just create this kind of mock bean. Deployment doesn't work, and you can invoke it if you want from the Gradle. Okay, so who has been to the Helidon speech yesterday? So yeah, Micronaut also have guides. It's 23, or it's not just 0 or 1. And this is a summary because we're running out of time. It's also taken from the documentation, apart from the last 3 bullet points, which is it's kind of ready to use. GA is going to be released in the Oracle Code 1. There's already like 23 guides already. And yeah, it's also the license is open source APL 2.0. And if you want, you can also have commercial support. So if your company wants to have something which is commercially supported, you can just have support from OCI, which is the company behind Grails and now Micronaut. And yeah, thank you. And now, last time for questions. And anyone over there? Okay, it should be. Do you ever know? It's a question. Yeah, I don't know. But it's you can always say it's production ready when it's not. You can always say you can have libraries and frameworks with 0 something for 5 years, and they are already used in production, but they're just not afraid to bump to the version 1. Just to be kind of mature. It depends on the people who create it, I believe. But it's kind of, I have the belief it's kind of refactor Grails for Java people who don't want to use Groovy. So I think, the value is already there. It's not something that you have to wait half a year to add console support, to add, Jagger support or whatever. So all the features mentioned here, you can start to use right away. Okay, other question? No? In that case, thank you.